Call this meeting to order. I have just 7 o'clock. Actually, I have 4 o'clock, but 7 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Okay, Director Clark.
Present.
Director Randall. Here. Director Dye.
Here.
Director Marsh.
Here.
Director Grant.
Here.
And also present for staff are General Manager Chuck Duffy, Assistant General Manager Hope Atmore, and General Counsel Bill Parkin.
Okay. Starting with general public participation, do we have any members of the public who would like to comment on matters under the jurisdiction of the district that are not on the agenda? Comments limited to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. And actually, since Mr. Heckert is here, do we want to do can we do number 3 first?
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
So we'll move ahead. Number 3 is consideration of sewer permit for 3-unit plus ADU multifamily project at 513 to 519 Avenue Alhambra, APN 047206260. Owner Ray Heckert, who is here with us. And the recommendation from the staff is to approve the permit. Do you want to review that, Hope or Chuck?
Hope, you want to take that?
Sure. So as mentioned in the agenda memo, Mr. Heckert did put in his application back in March, and we worked with the engineer to go over a few things. He incorporated the changes that we requested. This is for a 3-unit apartment plus an ADU. And is right across the street here from the office in that open field there. So at this point, Mr. Heckert's done everything we needed him to do as far as the engineering plans go, and we would recommend that staff or that the board approve this.
Any questions from the board?
What were the conditions placed on it by the San Mateo County Planning Commission, just to do all this get all the other comments in? And
yeah, I mean, we received a referral letter a while back on this, and so all the different agencies have to put in, what they're going to require. I'm sure he had to go in front of design review. I mean, we could ask Mr. Heckert if he wants to.
Mr. Heckert, what were the conditions that were on the project when it was approved by the council?
The conditions as far as the sewers?
No, as far as the overall permit. It says in February 2024, the San Mateo County Planning Commission conditionally approved this project.
Well, it's they're listed on the plans. It's about 9 pages worth of conditions from, all
Just
the
building stuff and technical stuff.
If the conditions are anything like the conditions they put on our stuff, they're conditionally approving it. We also have to prove it as the water district. Yeah.
No, I just wondered if there was anything unusual, what the conditions were. It's just the normal kind of finish all your consultation with the other agencies and make sure everything gets stamped and approved.
I'm unaware of any special conditions as far as the sewers concerned.
Meaning none were relevant to the sewer permit.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the only thing that we had asked to be changed was the size of the lateral because of the size of the development. That's really the only thing. And then, of course, because it's a 3-unit plus an ADU, the ADU is at 25% capacity of a normal living unit. So
do we go to a 6-inch ladder?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Any further comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, Hope, can we have a roll call?
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Aye.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Marsh?
Aye.
Director Grant?
Yes.
Okay. The project is approved for permitting 5-0.
Okay, nice to see you, Ray.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, then we'll move on back up to item number 1, the Parks and Recreation activities. First, 1A, report on Granada Community Park and Recreation Center.
So all of the comments have been sent over to Montrose Environmental, and they are reviewing and incorporating comments as needed. We've received a total of 90 comments, and at this point, we're just sort of in a holding pattern, waiting for them to go through those comments and come back to us with recommendations, at which point the project team, Chuck, myself, and Bill will review and go through. So I think at this point, there's not a whole lot to update you on, but that's where we stand right now.
Are we still expecting it to come back to the September meeting?
That's what we anticipate right now, yes.
Okay.
And just curious, we extended the open period. So from that extension, how many additional comments came in? Do you know?
I think maybe 4.
Okay.
I think we were already at 87 at the last meeting. So I think we got up to
One of
90.
them's a county letter, which is a big
Right.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, then we would have accepted theirs anyway.
Right.
Okay.
And then-
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And then Hope handed out an updated sheet.
Yes, and I will send this over to Nancy and Jill just as soon as I'm not on the mic. I'll forward this over to you. But there have been a number of things that have been up in the air and got changed even in the past 12 hours as far as the recreation programming. So my big hope of having the Granada Gazette out by today has been put on hold. It may end up being a really great thing because there's a chance that we're going to be able to do on our movie night something in conjunction with San Mateo County Parks and turn it into a whole big day event, which would be really cool. But we do have the nature journaling coming up this Sunday. We've got 6 or 7 people signed up for that. So there is still space for about 3 more people if somebody's interested in doing that. We have history walks twice this fall, August and November. The Fall Fest, again, may be moving to October 12th. We have our movie night confirmed for Quarry Park on October 12th as well. The new Ghostbusters movie will be showing. And then we also are going to be having an intro to drawing class with Claudia Marshall coming up in the fall. So we're finalizing those dates with her. And then we're still hoping to get a CPR and first aid training class. And of course, don't forget the bookmobile is still coming in 2nd and 4th Mondays of every month. So.
Are you getting a lot of turnout for the bookmobile?
Not as much as we'd like. We can see them from the deck. And so we tend to poke our heads out there and look. And there are a few, but it's not getting the turnout that I was hoping for. But I think these things take time. And even the bookmobile staff said that it takes a while for people to get used to the idea of them being there. So I'm not really surprised by that. But if you are interested in picking up a book, please do it at the bookmobile.
Who's doing the journaling for the August 18th one?
Alexis Pedron.
Oh,
And I have to say, Coastside Land Trust it's through Coastside Land Trust. Yes. Well, people love the program. People who have done it have been just really felt that it was meaningful and important. And I'm hoping sometime I'll find time to do it myself.
Yeah, when we did this in the past, it was a 2-part workshop. This time they're combining it into one because it is a little harder for people to schedule 2 weekends in a row. So I think that's made a difference just in the number of signups that we've gotten this time.
Great.
Okay, that's all we got.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll move. Sorry, any comments? We don't have many members of the public here, but I'll just ask. So Bill is happy with me. If we have any comments from members of the public on the parks and recreation activities, and seeing none, we'll move on to item number 2. I see Joe is here for presentation and updates from San Mateo Resources Conservation District. Welcome, Joe.
can you hear you?
He's got a little slideshow. He's bringing it up.
Yeah. So Joe, I just made you a co-host if you want to share your screen.
See that okay?
Can you make it bigger? Can you make it full screen?
Yeah, give me one sec here. Just moving some windows around. All right, so yeah, my name is Joe Issel. I'm the Director of Stewardship for the San Mateo Resource Conservation District. And tonight I'm going to provide a little background and update on the natural resource management plan that we made for Burnham Strip for GCSD back in 2017. First, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what an RCD is and our relationship with GCSD. So back in 1939, the San Mateo RCD was created. We're a special district, which is a form of local government created by the community to meet a specific need, similar to Granada Community Services District. There's fire districts, flood control districts, and we're a resource conservation district. So we're created specifically to help people conserve natural resources. We're not part of county government. We operate almost entirely on grant funding or agreements like we have with GCSD, which I'll talk about in a moment. Very similar to a nonprofit. RCDs are non-regulatory and provide confidential technical assistance, and we work with private landowners, so farms, ranches, timber companies, as well as state parks, essentially anybody who wants to do voluntary conservation on a property they own or manage. We have 5 program areas at the RCD, although the majority of our work is multi-beneficial and touches on a number of these different programs. Our wildlife program is focused a lot on recovery of endangered species. Our water program is focused a lot on improving water quality and water quantity, so conservation of flows for fish and water security for farms or domestic water systems. A climate program focused on climate adaptation and mitigation, so carbon sequestration, adaptation for severe weather and flooding and drought. An agricultural program focused on sustainable agriculture practices, improving soil health, and a forest health and fire resiliency program focused on improving forest biodiversity and ecology and helping communities be more resilient to wildfire through defensible space projects, emergency evacuation, and egress routes. And all of these services are available to GCSD, not just because you are a landowner and stakeholder in the county, but as part of your expansion of services from Granada Sanitary District to Granada Community Services District, we entered into an MOU with GCSD in 2013 to essentially be the natural resource management department for GCSD. And as part of that, in 2017, we were asked to create and proposed through talking with GCSD board members and staff about the Burnham Strip property to create a natural resource management plan for that site. Because in 78, the Montera, Moss Beach, El Granada community planning established guiding principles for Burnham Strip, designating as a community park or community open space conservation, and the rezoning of that property allowed for future development. So there was a lot of thought put into how to do that with balancing the natural resource management goals there. So in 2017, RCD made this management plan, which is intended to serve as an inventory of existing resources and to help guide management to achieve natural resource conservation goals alongside other plans for the property. This is an image that was made as part of that 2017 plan. It identified a number of resource conservation areas, some things to pay attention to. This was a high-level survey, so we did some follow-up work to drill into some of the stuff that we saw when we did this plan in 2017 that I'll talk about. But what we did is identified really 2 things that were appropriate for this site, given the high level of disturbance that it's seen over the years, its proximity to a highway and a community. Really, we're thoughtful about what's appropriate natural resource management objectives for this site compared to other areas in the county that we work. And those two main things are vegetation management for invasive species reduction, promotion of native plants, some fuel load reduction on the site. And there's a lot of opportunities here for water quality improvements. Two of the three drainages, if you can see my cursor, here we go. Two of the three drainages are monitored as part of the first flush program, which the RCD manages in this area. And we've got some water quality data. And this is the worst case scenario water quality data. So it's taken to the first rain of every year. So you've had a whole summer for all the bad stuff to accumulate in the environment, and it washes down into Surfers Beach and the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. And there's some opportunities on site here to improve water quality before it gets to the beach, to the ocean. And we laid those out in the natural resource management plan and with the design of that being incorporated as part of the park development, which it already has. Since that plan was written in 2017, GCSD and RCD have enacted some of these recommendations, including removal of ciabatta grass, mowing that has occurred to, again, knock down invasive species, manage fuel load reduction, and done in a way to balance the sort of competing demands between weed growth, habitat for birds, and fuel load management. In 2021, the RCD did a wetland delineation. If you remember back a few slides here, there's this blue area that looked like a potential wetland because we saw some standing water. And due to, I guess, well, I don't know if it's due to the degradation, but the site is degraded and altered. And although wetland plants were found and periods of standing water were observed, the site didn't meet the criteria for the U.S. Army Corps or Regional Water Quality Control Board wetland designations due to the low % cover of wetland plants and the lack of hydric soil conditions. So yeah, we finished that in 2021, and most recently we completed a vegetation restoration opportunity document, which is really like a thought exercise for GCSD to think about what sort of goals they have for the site for vegetation communities, really as part of their effort to incorporate a plant palette in the design of the park. So we provided an updated plant list that was included in the 2017 Natural Resource Management Plan. And, I'll just say, lastly, that GCSD has engaged with the RCD throughout the park development process on how to incorporate the goals of this natural resource management plan in the park development. We've reviewed CEQA documents and continue to do so. And those objectives have, for the project footprint area, have largely been included. We've got an area down here in the south, this riparian area. I don't know what to call it. I think we called it Burnham Creek, but there's probably another name. There's a lot of opportunity here for water quality improvement and eucalyptus tree removal. I think some of that has been done. As I understand it, this is an area of focus after the park is being developed. That's the end of my slideshow. Here's my email if you want to follow up after this, but I am happy to stick around and answer a few questions.
You're muted, Nancy.
Okay, thanks. Let's open up for any questions from the board for Joe.
I have quite a few questions, but I wonder if we should ask the public first.
Do we have any? I can't see if there are any members of the public on the Zoom or in the room.
And we've got Barbara Matthews, Michelle Dragony, Chris Rogers,
And Lisa
and Lisa
Ketchum.
Ketchum.
Well, typically we first ask for any questions from the board and then comments from the public and then further comments from the board. So we'll start with questions from the board. Jill, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Joe, for coming tonight. I've been asking for the RCD to give a presentation for a while, so it's a pleasure to have you here. I hope you can help me. I've been on the board for a little over a year and a half, so I have questions about the management. Right now, along the coast, there's a lot of controversy about mowing. I don't know if you've been part of it or have noticed, but people are questioning the mowing because we mow just about all the lands adjacent this highway that are owned by public agencies or the county. So can you explain why we mow the Burnham Strip?
Yeah. I think what you might be looking at, well, not all the land is mowed, but roadsides are often mowed, and there are open spaces that are mowed for a variety of reasons. One is that it helps control weeds. It helps control fuel, so fuel load reduction work. And so much of our coastal prairie grasslands have been lost that the grasses that are growing are non-native. And so mowing can, in a way, help replicate the grazing that once occurred on the coast, which many native plants need in order to remain competitive against the annual grasses, which will outcompete them if they're not mowed. But you can't exactly mimic, animal grazing with mowing. You can do your best, but you're never going to get quite what you need. But it's helpful in many ways to promote a competitive environment for native plants versus the plethora of non-native plants that are here. The timing of mowing, as I understand it, from staff that I've worked with, the RCD that are well-versed in this, is sometimes conflicting with the best time to mow it for weed control and the best time to mow it for nesting birds, which rely on the grass. So that's part of the juggle that a land manager has to deal with. And some of the strategies that we've used on this property is to stagger different areas for mowing and to look for nesting birds when mowing does occur. This site on the Burnham Strip property, we've talked with Cal Fish and Wildlife and other, outside technical advisors about the significance of this property on the coast. And, it's not a priority site for nesting birds and riparian habitat. The best focus for the precious natural resource management dollars that are out there were the native plants for pollinators and other animals that can safely come in and out of that site, given the roads that are around it, the little island that it is, and the water quality improvements that can be made on it.
Thanks. So you talked a bit about nesting birds, and I know that this year when you mowed it in April and then another time in the summer, and I understand there's a nesting bird survey before both of those mowing days, which is great. And is there anything else that happens prior to mowing? Is the operator trained, environmental trained? Are there any decontamination procedures? Do you flag native plants for avoidance? Does any of that happen?
I believe GCSD contracts with the mowing outfit. so I can't speak to that.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so this year you haven't done anything out there? Or did you do the nesting bird surveys? I mean,
Hope
Yes.
had someone out there. What was her name?
Erica, I think it's Erica
Yeah.
Harris, did the nesting
Okay.
bird surveys both times prior. And the second time prior, we did talk to the mower about making sure that his mower was clean and watching out for, before he went in, based on our conversation about it after the first mowing. So we did talk to him about cleaning the mower.
okay. Did anyone go out and make sure it was clean when it came and clean when it left? Or was it just kind of the honor system with the operator?
It's the honor system, yeah.
Okay. All right. So why don't we use grazing goats? Because we love goats. Everyone on the coast loves goats, and they use them down the road by more by Half Moon Bay. They use them. So is there a reason why we don't use goats on this property, or is it just something no one's ever looked into?
Goats were considered for the site. I can speak to that a little bit. It's quite a small site, and the little bit that I understand about goat grazing is, one, it's really expensive, and it only is cost effective for a certain size area, given the fences that you need to set up. There's also considerations you need to make for the goats, and to make sure they've got the right mix of vegetation so that they aren't sick from what they eat. I don't know how much we've evaluated this site for the appropriateness of goats, but based on the sites that we have evaluated in other places, this doesn't seem like a good use of funds for like a cost-effective site for goats.
Can I speak to the goats as well?
Miss Barbara.
Can I respond as well?
I don't know.
I want to make sure that Joe was finished with his answer.
I'm done. Yeah.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I do a lot of monitoring for Coastside Land Trust, and I monitor a number of properties, and I've been doing it now for 7 years and creating a record of the vegetation. And a couple of sites that we monitor, one of them is the railroad right-of-way in Half Moon Bay where the goats come, and next to it is a natural open space area. And particularly if the goats come after all the weeds have set seed, they eat everything down to the ground. And then you can see the persistent vegetation there is mostly non-native plants. It's not as healthy as nearby areas where the goats have not been. And I know they're very good for the fire protection issues, but I personally have issues with goats that come after all the plants have set seed. So I think it's a tricky issue. So I respect the argument.
Not a silver bullet.
No.
Well, that's a really good comment. I thank you for that, Barbara, because we mow it to the ground. So the last time we mowed, it was mowed to the ground where the mower was actually taking soil out. There's big ruts everywhere. So that seems similar to what the goats would do. And I agree. That's probably not wise. Do we know, is the mower supposed to be set a certain height? Or
Yeah.
is
The
it?
last time, for the second mowing that we did this summer, I did ask him to mow at 12 inches, but I'm sure because of the way that the ground goes up and down, there are parts of that where that's probably difficult for him to maintain. I haven't been out there while he was mowing. We did talk about the height last time.
Okay. Okay, before you run off, Joe, I want to pick your brain on the white garden snail situation. Can you just give a quick synopsis of that species and it being on the strip, what it means to us?
Not really. I'm not a white garden snail expert. All I know is that it's spoken with Hope about it in a meeting we had recently, and it's something that they want to take action on.
Okay. is there someone at the RCD who could help out, or is that not the RCD kind of thing?
Yeah, we can certainly help out with management actions related to that. Yeah, we can follow up about that. And I think that's on our list of things to reconnect on with Hope.
Can I speak again? When they first appeared and we got the notice, but 5 years ago, that the garden snails were on our property, we asked the RCD to come in and consult, and they did. And we put together an eradication program that was quite successful. But unfortunately, Caltrans, with the right of way right next to us, refused to do anything about it. So they were there and continuing to come in. The Harbor District actually did a good job as well of eliminating them, which is not to say that we shouldn't try again and do it. And Jill, in response to your comments about it, I went down there and I was shocked at how many there were. So I agree with you. We should get the RCD again in to try to develop a program against them. But they did a good job last time. So Joe, I don't know if you know that we had a whole program that you developed for us before.
That's great.
Okay. That's excellent to go to my next question. So there was an amendment to the MOU in 2018, and it talks of coordinating with Caltrans. And then in 2020 talks about working with County Department of Ag Weights and Measures and other stakeholders like Harbor District, Half Moon Bay, et cetera. Do you know anything about those conversations? Or no?
I know that was an item that was brought up as an opportunity for the RCD to help GCSD engage with some neighbors. And that was brought up as part of the park development. But to my recollection, none of that not too much of it was pursued. I don't know. It's about as much as I can speak to it.
Okay.
That might have been pursued by GCSD staff on their own. But it's always a service that the RCD can provide is to help. A lot of what we do is help develop projects that are across multiple properties. So one thing that we looked at was the water quality improvement benefits that could be achieved by working on Caltrans property, for example. It wasn't like a make or break for the water quality improvement opportunities. It was just something to look at for potentially doing some work on Caltrans property. But given the complexities of future plans that Caltrans has along that Highway 1 corridor, this is a while ago, but now it's kind of coming back that given the uncertainties, it didn't make sense to, invest in that Caltrans property, given the real potential that the highways expanded or moved inland or something like that.
Really?
So that was the main reason behind that. That I recall.
Do you know anything about the highway being expanded or moved at this time?
Just that their approach for that area, I think, is going to be holding the line that the highway remains there.
Oh.
And I would think that they would want to use all their available land to help make that happen. So I think that was some of the thought that went into how much it was worth spending time and investing in engaging with Caltrans with expanding, park development or, resources on their property. And they, there was some outreach, and that they're Caltrans. They weren't very interested.
Okay. I'll just ask one last question and I'll let other people speak. So I see there was a March 2022 document and it talks about RCD supplying comments to a 2018 biomass biological resource assessment of the Burnham Strip. Do you know what those comments were? Can you
I
summarize?
think we provided a summary to GCSD of those comments.
Oh, it says it went back to biomass. No, that must be a mistake. Okay. So you just summarized it for.
I think we commented on a document.
Mhm.
I don't know what happened to those comments.
Okay.
But then we were asked to provide a summary of comments in a document. And I think we provided that to GCSD. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, you provided us with a summary and we reviewed the summary, but the biomass report was a preliminary report. So, we weren't doing the full-blown SQL work yet.
Yeah. What I can say about that report that I do remember is that it was not, it was like very high level desktop analysis using course data that wasn't site specific. It was really boilerplate. So a lot of our comments spoke to things in the report that were not relevant to that site, like talking about a species that was located miles away that, was a species of concern for Burnham Strip because they did like a 10-mile polygon around the property for what are all the species that live in this area. And they included species that, can't fly and have to crawl and were listed as species concern on the property and things that needed to be thought about and considered in the park development process. And we were going through the document saying, this isn't something that's a concern of this site. And more thought needed to be put in to the document.
Okay. Thank you. I'll let it go around to others. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Barbara, go ahead, Barbara.
The recent settlement with the Ecological Rights Foundation that Sam made required a donation of $30,000 to something, forget the name of it, some kind of environmental group or an environmental project within the Half Moon Bay watershed. Do you think we could pick your brain a little bit to see if there's any way that funding could go to improve the wetland area on the Burnham Strip, particularly, the southern part that's not really part of this project? But I've always wanted to find some place that needs mitigation that could help us make that site more environmentally significant. $30,000 isn't a lot, but it's meant to be spent here. And it seems like we should, and Sam, at my request, is going to ask them if we can have some input into how that money is spent. So if you have any thoughts on that, I think you guys could help us, right?
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Barbara, are you talking about the Burnham Creek area at the south end?
The Burnham Creek area.
Thank you.
I don't think we could apply it to our project. That would be cool. But I just would like to see it actually get spent someplace in the Half Moon Bay watershed and some input since the money is coming from Sam.
Well, 25% from us.
And 25%, 20%.
We are Sam.
Yes,
We're
25.
then, so.
Oh, okay. 25% from us. Why not? Let's do something good. That's a potential. And I also would hope that when you're working with Caltrans, it seems to me Caltrans must need some wetland mitigation now and again. And it would be nice if we could get some of that done here. I don't think it would take a lot to make that wetland more successful. Take out the acacia trees at least.
That's
Anyway.
a great idea. It's always a good idea to let folks at Caltrans know you have a site that is suitable for mitigation of wetland habitat.
Could we actually maybe consider making an official request of the RCD to do whatever preliminary work would be needed to make it clear that we do have such a site?
Yeah. And yep. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Also, I just wanted to say the plan for the park, the work that you did with us to help make the drainages more sinuous and have more riparian vegetation and improve the water quality is terrific. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. Any other board questions?
Oh, I missed one.
Okay, go ahead, Jill.
All right. Barbara made me think of it. So you called out in your April amendment using measurable metrics and biannual reporting. And in the reporting, it said it would include a net change of plant cover, non-natives, invasives, and natives. And so, I work in the business and we call them general site assessments, and they can happen twice a year or once a month or however you want. But your original map in your management plan delineated different areas. There's like field 1, field 2, field 3, compacted area, which is the parking lot. And I imagined that plan would be used to do these updates, these site assessments. But it doesn't look like anything was done in the subsequent reports. There's nothing that talks about the plants and how they've changed from that original map. So
Yeah, that work wasn't done. There was a number of things in the natural resource management plan, natural resource management opportunities that weren't completed. It was a list of things that we could do. Some of them were done, like mowing and jubata grass removal. And those are appropriate actions, knowing that the site's going to get, turned into a park. So how much do you want to invest in monitoring plants and understanding the plant community beyond the plant surveys that have been done already? What's the end goal of that monitoring and research? If this site was going to be left as is and maintained as is, and that our goal is to improve this site and the plant community in it, that would have been an appropriate, next step. So I think that was probably the reason that wasn't done.
okay, I would just like to share from the community that spoke to me, and some called me. This is a view corridor for them, and they want it to be pleasing, with native plants. And the people who do walk on it, for example, right now you really can't walk on it. You have to be covered completely because it's all bristly ox tongue. It's very, pokey and scratchy. It's not fun to walk on at all. Whereas all the natives have been buzzed to the ground, and they were once soft and flowing and beautiful. And so aesthetically, it seems to be degrading year after year. And the pampas grass or the jubata grass, they're still there. So that didn't work the same amount. And every time we mow, we just spread them. And, I know people hate it when I talk about the beach strawberry, but, it's a beautiful plant. Why are we mowing it? It doesn't make sense to me. So I would really like to have those measurable metrics come back. It would be fun to see what activities actually promote, enhance natives, and which ones are degrading them. Thanks, Joe.
Sure.
Any other board questions? Seeing none, I want to open up for public comment. Members of the public, if you want to raise your hand, now I can see the participant list. I'm not seeing any. Are you guys seeing any?
No one's on the screen and no one's in our office.
Okay. Okay, then we will move on. Any last comments from the board?
Where do we go from here? I would like to discuss this with the board. I don't think Joe needs to be part of it, just to see what steps we're going to move forward with. Does that happen at another meeting? Do I make a motion to, make a subcommittee, or
Yeah.
It seems like something should happen out of this.
We had
And
quarterly
ahead.
meeting with
Oh, go-
RCD. Joe, so we have a next quarterly meeting set up with RCD. The last meeting, we did talk about some of the goals that we would like to see, which included the snail abatement, and some different things like that, and also investigating grazing and goats and different things. So that is coming up. I think, Joe, you set that for, I want to say it was November is when we're meeting next, to kind of talk about what we would like to achieve. So there are some next steps already planned.
And are we mowing again this year? Are we going to do another? mow?
Probably not. I don't think there's going to be a need to mow again this year, but I'm going to defer that to RCD and have them check it for us if it starts to look like it's getting tall.
I think that we should have some sort of report the board can look at before the mowing is conducted. I mean, saying that, well, we're going to turn it into a park eventually. It's been years. It's been, what, 6 years since RC did the management plan. And it could be another year before we break ground. And
We did do the vegetation management opportunity document in 2023, and we took another look at the plant community that was out there. There's different types of plant surveys that are done, and mowing is a regular practice that Tomcat uses to manage their rangelands. Then they have Point Blue, coming out and doing a lot of survey work. We can do a ton of stuff on this site. What are the goals for GCSD for the site in the long term? Where do you want to put your resources? That 2023 vegetation management plan document is a good thought piece to help prioritize and prioritize actions and think about, how you're going to spend your natural resource management dollars. Are putting it towards park development and a more permanent solution is one approach that seems to be what's being taken on the site, which is a longer term view versus short term plant community populations. Some of both can be done. It's really up to GCSD. We're providing input based on GCSD priorities and providing different restoration opportunities and helping to prioritize based on these goals that GCSD has.
I'd just follow on Joe's comment because you mentioned basically the cost benefit analysis. So I think out of the staff meeting, or one of the staff roles meeting with our partner is to come back with recommendations to the board that do take into account, what are the near and long-term plans. Certainly takes in the public input, but I would remind everybody we have hundreds. I think Tom counted 2,000 units of public input. And certainly there are people who would like it to be all natural grassland, and there are people who would like it to have a pump track, a swimming pool, and sports courts. So, what we have planned in the park is really the middle ground on those. But I think I don't know what it costs to do the sorts of surveys that Jill has suggested, but I think we should consider such things, but come back and say, given what we have planned, is that a reasonable investment? And if it's a small investment, maybe it's not. I just don't know whether it is or not. But I think we should get a staff report back from that update meeting with RCD.
And so we're not operating under that original 2018 resource management plan. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, we've gone through the plan, Jill, and I want to reiterate something Joe said, and Nancy touched on it as well. We have a different goal. When we were mowing 20 years ago and 15 years ago and 10 years ago, when we did a resource management plan in 2017, we didn't have a park plan in place. And as Joe points out, if our goal is a park, we should invest our resources in that park. If this was going to be native open space for the next 20 years, it'd be a different investment. So I think that's what we have to keep our mind on.
Okay, so right now we're not interested in enhancing it or making it any better for the community. We just want it to degrade until we start breaking ground.
I would say the community, we have a lot of the community who wants us to move to making it a park and would like to see that happen.
Yes.
Yeah,
I also think that the north end closest to the 480 Avenue Alhambra property, that north end is going to be passive grassland. And so mowing and possibly even doing some seeding, and that's something we can also look into. But the idea of that entire area of the park is to be passive grassland. So trying to get those native species back and get the invasive species out is part of the park plan. So we can start looking at almost enhancing that area, knowing that that's not going to be affected by the park development.
Hope, can you bring up the map from the RCD? Because I think that people use north, south, east, west incorrectly when they're describing areas of the park. And
It's north.
It's the west end, yeah.
yeah.
Can I also make a comment there? I'm actually very excited that the whole north end, yes, they're talking passive grassland, but we're talking about working potentially with master gardeners and others to bring back the grasslands there. And then the areas that are being having some elevation added to provide very low, not areas are going to be coastal bluff scrub. And I'm really excited about the potential to do some revegetation there.
Okay, I think I started this, so I should probably hold it, but we're straying from the agenda topic into further park development.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
this is about the RCD and their help for us, not
Yes.
a referendum on the park design.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. I was being good.
Okay, but we will get the items that Jill mentioned looked at in the staff meeting with RCD, and we'll get a report back.
We'll bring one back.
So
Yes.
will that happen before any additional mowing happens? Or can we just expect some mowing?
Yeah, we'll coordinate with RCD on when mowing has to happen. I can't promise you anything. Certainly
Okay.
let you know.
Let me be clear. We do not, the CAL FIRE ordinance that they send around to property owners once a year telling them to mow, that does not apply to us. We're a public agency. We don't respond to that. We're exempt. I went down there and found out we're exempt.
About that, yes, they cannot stipulate to us that we have to mow it. It does not, however, mitigate the actual fire hazard.
So I would like to see some justification that this is a fire hazard before you mow, because when you mowed in April, the whole entire site was saturated with water and completely green. It was not a fuel hazard. So I'm thinking, well, then maybe you mowed to keep down the weeds, but you mowed all the natives down. There was a huge flush of wetland plants that went across the strip. It went from that the northwest wetland, all the way across to Caltrans and then down to the first intermittent stream. And the mower mowed right through them. So those should have been flagged. It should have been avoided. Those were, almost completely native wetland plants.
I do know that some native plants like mowing.
No.
I think what would be helpful is a little bit of explanation about why we mow, when we mow, and the different trade-offs that are there for mowing regimes and strategies for that site. I think some of that is often provided by email from Erica, who unfortunately is going to be leaving the RCD next week. Her family is off to Northern California in Siskiyou County. So she's got to go up there and join forces with the rest of her family. So we're going to unfortunately lose her, but we do have other staff at the RCD who are good with grazing and mowing that will get on this to help out. That's a good follow-up item for us, and hope our next meeting is actually September 3rd. So we'll have a chance to connect on this pretty soon.
So one question I have that you guys could think about or come up with on is, just, is there a way to bridge the gap between them helping us with the mower directly, like versus having to have to go through you, right? Like if they have such expertise on mowing and what to mow and how to do it versus having you sort of have to be this intermediary, like can they work directly with someone that we vended with on how to do it correctly? So it just takes out the middlewoman, you know? I don't know if that's even possible, but just something to maybe explore.
Right, or it's possible that our CD even has recommended contractors that they would use for mowing, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Maybe we should talk about getting a group together, like a subcommittee that leads volunteers that can go hand pull invasives. Because, I mean, I've done this for 25 years and the number one rule is do not mow. If at all possible, do not mow because mowing doesn't help. It's like wrecks things. Operations comes in and mows a restored project and you have to start all over. So I really would like that put into our mowing activity. It doesn't decrease the weeds. We've farmed bristly ox tongue. It's completely covering the strip, except for the bird's foot trefoil right now and the beach strawberry and the ciabatta grass. Joe,
Okay, I'm just hearing different views, but it's not unusual for people to use different views from the same data. But I
so
think you
let's
guys-
see some data on how mowing makes things better before we mow again. I'm sure Joe can pull something up for us.
Yeah, I think that's what Joe offered.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're meeting just in a couple weeks. So we'll come back with why mow? That's what we'll call it. Why mow?
And just what the plan is, you know, in general.
Or why not? Yeah.
I think the community deserves to know. They like transparency.
Okay, any other comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, Joe, it's nice to see you. Like, I think we'll see you again soon or more often.
Good.
Okay,
Good night.
thank you. Good night,
Thank
Joe.
you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to the engineer's report. Any comments or questions? I just had one update to Hope that we just need to let John know that the RV park and the restroom are open.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Barbara.
The Pillar Point Harbor sewage meter, is that the same as a flow meter?
Yes, it is a flow meter. Well, there's different kinds of flow meters, but yes, it's a flow meter.
Because later when we talk about the SAM capital improvement program, two of the really high cost replacement items on it are flow meters. And here we are saying, this is not us, this is a SAM facility. If it's the Pillar Point Harbor sewage meter, or is that for the harbor? This is for the harbor district.
They own it.
Oh, this is for the harbor
owns it.
district, not
We read,
Pillar Point. Okay.
yeah.
So we need to work with the harbor district on this. So is that, this has been here for a while. Is that being replaced? Do we know?
Yeah, so they're actually, the Harbor District is they had somebody from SAM come out and take a look, and they're also having a third-party inspection of it. And then they're going to meet with us and our engineer to talk about that flow meter because the numbers that are coming out of it don't make a lot of sense right now. So we think it either needs to be recalibrated or repositioned.
Right. I'm hearing a lot about flow meters these days. So I was curious. All right. That's my only question. Thank you.
Any other questions on the engineer's report? Any comments from the general public on the engineer's report? You guys are going to have to tell me because I can't see hands.
No hands.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to the report on Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side meetings.
You want to do it? You want me to do it? Matthew, do
No,
it.
I missed the previous meeting, so if you want to say anything about that.
Right. The the main item was presented at the last SAM meeting was a 5-year capital improvement program budget. And this is something that we've been asking for a long time, which is to look ahead at what the major costs could be. One of the sort of issues around it is there had been a request from at least our agency, and I think others were in some sympathy, which is that it would be helpful for us to have a consistent level of expectation of funding for capital improvements at SAM. And it had been called in here a target. In some ways, I think we need a different name for it. Chuck and I were talking about this, is the limitation. But the idea is that it would be $2.5 million. And it's crept up to $3 million. And they have presented, and we might want to even look at this. You were all sent a copy of it. The proposal, which an outside consultant came in and was paid a lot of money to do. I asked, he evidently looked at the costing for each of the items on it and tried to refine them and make them more accurate. But the bottom line was that the one that was presented has a total of $3 million for the year ahead, which we all know is the force main in Montera. And then the same for the next year, which is the same thing. And then in the original presentation, the amount that we needed to contribute was doubled in the following year. Now, to be clear, even if the SAM board, with us voting, approves it, that doesn't bind us because we don't do our budget. We do it 1 year at a time, and it has to go through the process. But the idea is that there would be more ability to look ahead at what the expectations would be as we look at our rate structure and so forth. So I think maybe do we want to pull it up on the screen, or we're all looking at it here? And then maybe before we do that, can you, if we're going to pull something up on the screen, can we pull off the graph that I sent you?
Okay.
Do with that first.
Yeah, just set the stage.
Pulling that up, a little more background. So five or 6 years ago, Sam had a bunch of CIP programs varying greatly each year. So we sat down in a meeting and I said, we have to have some kind of limit because Sam doesn't affect Sam. They don't set rates. We set rates, Half Moon Bay sets rates, Montera sets rates. So we all agreed on 2.5 as a ceiling.
Ceiling, that's a good word.
And
Can you make that bigger?
In the intervening years, it crept up to 3.5 somehow. And I bring it up every meeting and it kind of went nowhere. And then it showed up in this report as a target, but a little stronger. If you treat something as a target and you say, we have to spend $2.5 million, you'll sit around in a meeting, because I've been in these meetings, and people go, we got $1.5 million. What else can we throw in? So, but I'm not saying that happened here, but that's human
And that's
nature.
not how I perceive it happening. Yeah.
It's a ceiling to allow us to smooth out our rates. That's why it's in place. So
just to set the stage for this. This is the level of funding for capital improvement programs at SAM since, 2004, I think, 2005. And there seems to be a theme that no money is being invested in SAM. But I like just to look at this now to say, you can see that the amount of money is increasing by large amounts as the years go by. And
I kind of stop you.
Yeah.
It's not a theme. It's this dialogue in the background. Deferred investment. And I've said to your board many times, we have never failed to pass a SAM budget that wasn't related to a lawsuit.
anyway, so I just wanted to say, yes, it is absolutely true that there are many needs at SAM. It's an old plant. They have equipment that they can't get parts for anymore, and they have to go to secondhand dealers to get the parts for. But big improvements have been made in recent years. So the question now is looking at this in terms of the expectation for GCSD. And after our last meeting, we requested something that had been done in the past, which was for every project that there be at least a one-page summary to explain what exactly was in the project, why it was needed, what the urgency was, and they're going to do that. So we don't have to take any action on this tonight. In fact, we're never going to take any action because we're not going to approve it. We're going to provide feedback because we can't approve it because it's not a real commitment. But it's going to come back at our next meeting with more backup. But I wanted to just have everybody have a look at it. And I assume that the $6 million in 26, 27 is going to go away because it doesn't make sense. I mean, our rate structures for all three agencies are such that,
Yeah, if you turn your attention, and I won't go into great
maybe,
detail.
can you put this, do you want to put this up there or no?
I can, give me just 1 second.
Yeah.
Go ahead and keep talking.
I have to allude to it though. So if you turn your attention to the table, this is my table derived from the SAM stuff. So all I did was expand it. They had lumped the pump stations together, force mains together,
Right.
plant, and I just expanded it based on their dialogue. So it's the number are exactly the same. So if you look at 24, 25, 25, 26, and 26, 27, those first 3 years, you can see what we're talking about. The first year's $3 million. That's the total number at the bottom. Then it's 35.10. Then it's 63.54. Well, the reality is the only project we really need to do in the next 3 years is fix Montero Force Main. And that's going to cost $10 million. It's going to exceed the $2.5 million cap, but it doesn't matter. We have to do it. It's one of the things they moved up at my request to a priority one project. There's no choice in it. We have to do it. And it's almost like this is a tale, it should be, hopefully after our dialogue, a tale of two plans. Those first 3 years, all Montero. Then the next 5 years after the 3 years, you start looking at meters and pumps and things at the treatment plant and biogas things and whatnot. So that's kind of, so my second page, if you flip it over, that's titled with some projects moved out to years. I kept the first 3 years, all Montero Force Main, all Sam Montero Force Main. And then the 27, 28, and 28, 29, I pushed some of the projects out to there and I evened it out. And, you know, the stuff you see in parentheses, I believe we can push down further down the road, but I don't want it. It's not my budget. So I'm not going to say the same. It's a dialogue discussion.
Minutes, italics.
In the italics, yes. Yeah.
And I would like actually to see them thinking about any, just putting on the table not to be funded in this scope of what are the other future things ahead. But it's good that they're doing this. I mean, this is a good thing because it's instead of every year going, oh, why'd you pick this? We're going to see it in the context of multiple years of work. So I would say we shouldn't
So we're going to have
belabor it tonight. Yeah.
So we're going to have this as a standalone item at the September meeting.
At which place we'll say,
Right.
it's more or less like, looks okay to us, but we're not necessarily, we're not in a position to actually approve it. But that would be direction to Matthew and me. But again, we wouldn't be approving it as committing to the expenditures. It would just be approving it as a planning document.
Right. And as you noted, SAM doesn't do 5-year budgets either. They do
Right.
annual budgets, and that's how the whole GPA works.
Right.
So,
Okay, really. Yeah.
We also looked today at the SAM Finance Committee meeting at the year 23-24 end of year financials, and they were over budget by $500,000. They do expect some more FEMA money to come in that might cover that. So,
Nancy has a question.
oh, sorry.
Back to me.
Sorry, just a quick question for Chuck on, I think the main change you made was to push out the IPS force main in Princeton to later years. That's the main driver of the total number change, right?
Yeah, I pushed the top four also out the month.
Yeah, you push them out to the next year,
1 year, and I pushed Princeton out. And
even
there's-
farther.
And I'll give more detail on that for that reason. But,
I just
again,
wanted
it's
to comment that I think this is great. I think
Yeah.
the first time I toured the plant, before I was on the board, with Barbara Kitchen and Tim, Kitchen was sort of working on like a 5-year plan that we never, I don't think, actually saw. But we should be able to anticipate, unless something, blows up, what we're going to see next year, next year, next year. And I think, as Chuck noted, that just helps us know when we're going to have to do a 218 and know, smooth the increases that we do in our sewer fees. If we have to do increases in our sewer fees, at least we can see it coming and not be on a back foot. So I think this is great. And Barbara, I know you are the queen of the finance committee and really push for things like this. I just wanted to say I really appreciate it.
I ask a lot of questions anyway. I'm no expert. Anyway, so just the summary of last year's budget is $500,000 over in there, hoping that would be some money to come up. And a couple things are just like the chemicals they have to pay for turned out to be much more expensive than and so forth. And they hopefully have budgeted today. When we looked at our end of year numbers, we didn't compare them to next year's budget, but
Yeah, I was surprised. Some of the chemicals, I think, doubled in 2 years.
yeah. So some engineering services is 70% over budget and so forth. But I think equipment revenue is 457% over budget because they had to get some emergency generators because their generators failed. So, all in all, this is much less over budget than it was the year before, which is a step forward. And so the official documents, and then will come to us, I don't know, in our next meeting or the meeting after, and then the audit will come later.
All right.
You get at these meetings, you get like in 2 fiscal years from now, or 3, in Chuck's version, how can a flow meter cost over $500,000? And,
Don't get Chuck started, Matthew.
well, that's what I'm asking if the finance committee, because I'm not there, if those kind of questions come up.
Well,
Where are these?
That's a technical question. I wouldn't expect anyone on the finance committee. I had the same question. That's why Barbara laughed. But you never know. Flow meters. It sounds easy. You stick a flow meter on a pipe. Well, if you have to dig a vault 18 feet away, down however many feet that is, 20 feet down, to get a meter, to get a straight pipe run, to stick a meter on, it becomes a bigger project. Still sounds big to me, but.
and you have to have a straight run to get a proper meter reading. And one of the main meters has a big bump in it. Yeah. So
it might not, it's not as simple. It still sounds big, but I haven't done it. My guys do a takeoff on it, so just have to.
And let me just say one other thing, which is that when I started, you walked around that plant and things were rusty, and you could just see that things are deteriorating and falling apart. I met a new staff person. They just hired a new operator, level 3 operator, who seems very nice, that I got to meet today. And he said, "Boy, this is the neatest, cleanest plant that I've been to." And I think it's a good thing. Things are painted now. They're clean. They're paying attention to all that stuff. And they have, when I have to sign the checks to the company that does it, they do a lot of safety training. But that seems like a really good thing. So anyway, my overall report is more will come back on this. It's a lot of money, but I think I don't subscribe to this thing like, oh, there's just all this stuff that we're not funding. We're funding a lot of good stuff. Things are getting done.
We've never said.
I know. Yeah, that's true. We have never said
Coming back to that.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the general public? Hearing none. Okay, then let's move on to the consent agenda, which includes the July 18th regular meeting minutes, August 2024 warrants, and June 2024 financial statements. Would anybody like to pull any of those things from the consent agenda?
I don't want to pull, but I have a couple questions. Anybody else?
Go ahead.
Okay. On the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, it shows that we're $50,000. It shows that the expected cost of our SAM payment is $50,000 different from what was expected, but isn't the expected amount based on the approved budget? So was just confused about that.
Well, I'll have to look at that, Barbara. It should be exact. We had that mid-year. No.
Anyway, it doesn't matter, but I was just
I'll look at
curious,
that.
just so you know, somebody's looking at this. I know we all look at it, but, and then I'm assuming we'll be doing a parks reimbursement to Half Moon Bay. Just so people know, every dollar we spend on parks, we have to pay an amount equal to 18% of that to Half Moon Bay. And then my last.
Barbara, do you want to, I just would explain, in case anybody from the public watches this later, that's because we collect property tax from Frenchman's Creek, the northern part of the city of Half Moon Bay, but they provide parks service to that part of the city of Half Moon Bay. So we reimburse them for the property tax we spend on parks and recreation.
They said, well, we provide parks and recreation for those people. So
yes.
Anyway.
Which
yes.
they do. They have a park. They have a park there.
And then one last question, which is the fact that total capital projects for us is so positive is because we deferred our own capital improvement program, but we are going to do one in the year ahead.
Right.
Those are my questions.
Because we just finished the whole program.
A year ago, we were
Yeah.
supposed to do one this year and we pushed it off because of all the monetary, unfortunately. Right. Okay. And so I'm fine with the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I need to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Okay, any other comments? Any comments from the public? Hearing none, Hope, can we have a vote, please?
Director Clark,
aye.
Director Randall,
Aye.
Director Dye,
Aye.
Director Marsh,
Aye.
Director Grant.
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes 5-0.
Okay, next is committee reports. Number 9, the only one I think was a report from me on attending the Midcoast Community Council meeting that we talked about last month, but since we recently reviewed the requirements for board members, I wrote a written report.
Thank you.
And I actually also have one in there because I'll be starting the Leadership Core program. The first meeting is actually at the end of this month, and then it meets once a month. It's something put together by the San Mateo County Leadership Council, and it brings together professionals from nonprofit, business, and private and public sector to sort of network and build community and talk about the things that are facing San Mateo County. So I think it's going to be really useful.
Excellent.
Great.
So cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, moving on to the information calendar, attorney's report,
No report.
general manager's report,
I've got nothing further.
administrative staff report,
Nothing beyond what's included on your report.
and any additional, we have 3 items on future agenda items, update our records retention policy, recology presentation and updates. So we'll add one after the September 3rd meeting. We'll keep that on the future agenda items, and SSC rate study presentation. Any other suggested future agenda items?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time, Mike? You kind of trailed off at the end.
Sorry. We have an update on the records retention policy, recology presentation and updates. And I said, we'll keep that on the future list because we'll have them come back after their update meetings. And the last is a sanitary sewer rate study presentation. This is, I think, a study that Chuck had Bartles working on earlier in the year.
Yeah, we started that earlier this year and figured out we didn't need an increase this year, but we'll pick it back up December-ish.
Okay.
Okay, so are we going to talk about the management of the Burnham Strip?
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Also?
Yeah.
After that meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jill, thank you. It's actually recology presentation that's on there. What we'll add is the future update from RCD on management of the Burnham Strip, including mowing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and I just want to say, and I know I'm just beating the dead horse, but okay, so as a background, Jen, you probably don't know, but I'm a wildlife biologist. I spent 27 years working with special status species. I trap SF garter snakes, red-legged frogs, and I do restoration of large projects. And it's very disturbing that RCD has dismissed the Burnham Strip property as valuable or even, a minimal wildlife habitat when we know we have wildlife. There's dead roadkill on Highway 1 in the mornings right by the strip. The animals move to the beach and they move back, and they get hit sometimes. And the notion that a highway would stop wildlife there's so many examples that prove that wrong. Just in Pacifica, where they did that bridge replacement project, red-legged frogs are breeding there. And that is a very busy highway. And sometimes you find dead red-legged frogs that are hopping across the road, especially when it rains. So having a busy highway doesn't stop wildlife. Our largest population of San Francisco garter snake in San Mateo County is at SFO property, right next to Highway 101, that huge highway. And that's our largest population right there. So highways are not, especially ours, there's nothing, no K-rails, no fencing, there's no barriers. They can hop right across frogs. They can slither right across snakes. Raccoons like to cross because they're hit all the time. And sometimes the coyote pups get hit, but we do have wildlife here. So we need to think about that. And there are people here who like the strip and they want us to do some management of it to pretty it up or make it better and enhance it for natives. And that's what RCD should be doing. So if we retain RCD, we should have them do that job. Otherwise, we could just say, let's just stop contracting with them altogether until the park is in place, until we start that. Because there's no reason why we need to manage it for fuel. It's not a high risk fire danger. And the mowing is not getting rid of invasives. So we could save money by just saying, let's just not do anything. Let's just leave it alone and wait until we have the park approved and then start breaking ground. That's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Heard you, Jill. And we'll let staff discuss with RCD and come back with their recommendations. Okay, I think that was the last agenda item. So if there's nothing further, then we are adjourned.
Wait, what's the closed session?
Oh,
Adjourned?
shoot.
Yeah.
We're adjourning to closed session. Sorry, I got too excited about the beach behind me. Okay, we're adjourning to closed session, so we need to take a break for Pacific TV to wrap up.
And the closed session is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, government code section 54-956-9D1.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, we're adjourning to closed session, and we'll have a break while PCT packs up.
Okay.
Okay.